Welcome back for another video. We're back with the GW2 edition of the Experts. We've got data from hundreds of top all-time managers again this week, and as you probably guessed from the video title, it's an interesting one this week with some triple captain chips active. So lots to discuss, and if you are new around here, make sure you're subscribing so you don't miss out on these weekly tips. The managers involved in this series have finished top 100 in the world 4 times, 44 top 1k finishes and 367 top 10k finishes. Starting off with the manager highlight, and if you recall from last week, we had a few bench boosts using GW1. Oscar was the one we actually highlighted, and he finished on 104 points, with a first rank of the season being 1.3k. Now, it wasn't actually the most successful bench boost with 7 points, though an interesting thought experiment is, would he have picked the same starting 11 if not using the chip? 97 points from the starting 11 is outrageous in its own right. Honourable mention to Stephen Hinchy as well, who's another one that used the bench boost with a more successful bench, scoring 22 points. You'd be happy with that in a double game week even, and he finished on 90 points. We're going to talk more on double game weeks later in this video, and why some top managers are experimenting with chips more than ever. The average score in the Experts League was 65 points, so about 8 more than the global average. Moving on to transfer activity. This week, the vast majority are rolled in the transfer to take 2 into Game Week 3, 73% rolling. 26% are spending their free transfer, and one manager's making 2 transfers for a -4. No wildcards or free hits active this week in Game Week 2, which is good news. They haven't gone completely off the rails with the chips yet. So which players are they buying and selling? Their top transfer in is Robinson, who 12% have picked up and avoided the Quansah price fall. He is the most sold player, 22% have got rid of him. If you've still got Quansah and nothing in the bank, then sitting tight is probably the sensible play, as there's no 4 mil defenders with enough upside Game Week 2. Howard Bellis is the only one I can think of who might work given they're home to Forest, but you'd like to think saving a transfer now lets you make a move with much more upside in Game Week 3 than Howard Bellis now. For example, Foden in Game Week 3 looks good, or Salah in Game Week 4. If you don't have either of those, both are possible paths to look at with your teams. 4% have bought Lewis, who did impress in Game Week 1, kept a clean sheet against Chelsea. I watched an interesting video from 442, which I'll link below, analysing his role Game Week 1. Pep's almost invented a new role for Lewis seemingly. So Pep's always used inverted fullbacks for years, so one of the fullbacks always pushes up and tucks into midfield. The example here is you'd expect Lewis to invert, circled in red, and this creates a box in midfield which forms passing triangles. He's used this for years though, and there are ways to prepare for it and negate it. Instead, we saw Lewis playing as part of the front 6. Yeah, the front 6, so a 3-1-6 formation in attack. It sounds bonkers, but that's how City played against Chelsea at times, and Lewis circled in red here, joining that front 6. As a result, he kept popping up in crazy advanced areas. It is an incredibly demanding role to play though. He is capable of playing it, we'll have to see if it continues. So it's surely too good to be true for 4.5 mil. Well yeah, probably, because Walker's in the picture and Pep could call on him at any point. And in honesty, a start in the next 2 games wouldn't surprise me, maybe Game Week 3 rather than Game Week 2. However, the upside's undeniable. And by the way, it is the same way that Postecoglou uses Pedro Porro in Udogie. All this analysis for City to win 5-1 and Lewis to get a 2-pointer. So here are some other notable names on the list. One manager has sold Bruno for Foden, who is a bit of a crazy differential at this stage, especially among engaged managers. In fact, the one that's brought him in even captained him. I'm surprised to see Solanke sold, albeit just one manager, Havertz coming in for them. Fun fact, Havertz has actually got the most open play, goals and assists in the Premier League this calendar year. He's an absolute lock for me from Game Week 6. Arsenal got difficult fixtures in the interim, but he could absolutely deliver still, and Arteta's clearly got intent to use him as a striker this season, with the possible arrival of Merino. A quick look at chip users then. So we saw 2% use their bench boost in Game Week 1. The appeal there was, you're essentially wildcarding straight into the bench boost, which you can't do during the season, and there are going to be less double game weeks this season. Though we also saw with Barco it can go wrong. Now 3% have got their triple captainship active this week. FBO Addict's one of those. His last 4 finishes are 28k, 7.5k, 2.3k and 16k, so on average just outside the top 10k, and here's his team for this week. It's Flecken, Pedro Porro, Gabriel Saliba, Robinson, and Nkunku, Saka, Jota, Solanke, Haaland and Isak. I asked him about the decision, here's what he had to say. Whenever considering a chip, I think about the fixtures, information available and where the chip fits into my wider strategy. So fixtures, Liverpool put up 2.56 expected goals against Ipswich in the second half after Slot changed the system. It's hard not to imagine Pep not exploiting their vulnerabilities, with Rob T FPL projecting City to put up 3.3 expected goals and giving Ipswich just a 4% chance of a clean sheet. Information. Post-Chelsea, Haaland claimed he's never felt better. After a full pre-season and no Euros, he should be sharp. With Alvarez gone, no midweek fixture to prepare for and plenty of time to recover, Haaland's expected minutes are unlikely to be higher than now. Strategy: triple captain's a relatively low ceiling chip compared to the bench boost, free hit, and possibly the mystery chip. Given we likely only have 2 double game weeks this season, it makes playing the triple captain in a single game week more attractive. Is there a better opportunity than Ipswich at home? Some seem nervous about using the chip early in the season, seemingly for the sake of it. FPL is about taking calculated risks with imperfect information. This is the one I'm likely to take. Best of luck whatever you choose. And he also said, I also think the 5-3 transfers rule could potentially cover chips in the blank game weeks and unexpected double game weeks with good planning. This would boost the value of the triple captain in a single game week. Thanks for sharing, Marcus, appreciate the write up, and best of luck if you do stick with it. Moving on to Experts Captaincy, and as you can imagine it's very lopsided this week. It's Haaland top, captained by 90%, and then Salah with 8%, Saka 1%, Foden 1%. There's not much to think about if you own Haaland. This was the chart that FBO Addict mentioned earlier, from Rob T FPL, with City on 3.3 projected goals. Liverpool with 2.95 projected goals, so Salah's still a very sound captain. FPL Review's latest projections have got Haaland on 8.9 points, Salah 8.1. Son's on third by the way with 6.4, which suggests giving him one more week despite the blank game week 1. And Palmer in fourth. Now a haul from him would really make things very interesting given Chelsea's upcoming games. Best of luck with captaincy this week everyone, let us know who you're going with. In fact, let us know if you're thinking about triple captain as well. I have to say FPL Addict's pitch was very good. Moving on to the experts team, and if this video has been useful don't forget to like the video and make sure you subscribe him. We're 98% there to 200,000. The team this week is Henderson in goal, Trent, Pedro Porro, Robertson at the back, and Nkunku, Saka, Eze, Jota and Smith Rowe in midfield, Haaland captain alongside Isak. Valdemarson, Hall, João Pedro and Barker on the bench. So Quansah drops out of the team and in comes Hall, who's got higher ownership now. Now the season's underway, we've got the ownership percentages among all the experts teams every week, which I'll pull up now. So we've got the overall ownership, we've also got the difference, which is useful for spotting those players the experts really like that the overall player base aren't considering. So for example, Isak's 100% owned, 58% overall. Trent is 69% owned, 31 overall. Just note, the experts' ownership percentages are from the previous game week as it's really hard to project those accurately. Robinson, 55% owned, just 10% overall. And Salah's the only player here with a negative difference in 27% of their teams but 36% overall. Now it didn't go amazingly in game week 1, but if Shea didn't get that red card and Isak hauled, who was the captain for pretty much all the Salah non-owners, it could have really changed the picture. This week it's Salah versus Haaland. Will it swing back the Haaland owners' way? Very solid team this week, let's see how they get on. On to the experts' final thoughts and tips for Game Week 2. Here's what they had to say this week. Lee Caulfield says, with 2 4-mil defenders on the bench and a potential price fall for Quansah, I've been forced into an early move. Robinson feels like the safest replacement longer term. Benny M90 says, with there being less double game weeks this season, it might be a good decision to use a triple captain on Haaland if the EV is there. I'll wait on the markets to update prior to making a decision. Guido says, plan is to save a transfer in Game Week 3 so I can do Porro and Solanke to Alexander-Arnold and João Pedro for their double home fixtures in Game Week 4 and 5. This coincides with when Spurs play Arsenal Game Week 4. Maya Nyik says, I'll try to avoid any knee-jerk reaction this week. It's easy to panic after Game Week 1, but I will keep faith in the squad I assembled, not just for 1 week. Quansah is the obvious worry and he'll likely to be moved on in the coming weeks if he doesn't regain his spot this week or next. I have covered for the backline, I'm not worried about the price drop. Making decisions just based on value loss is not good. I prefer to get at least 1 more week of information before I make any changes. After all, next week there might be more important changes to make. FPL Sizz also has his triple captain active and he says, Haaland is the obvious captain but the dilemma is on the triple captain. He's at home versus a newly promoted side following a full pre-season with no European commitments. It's a goer for me. And lastly, one from a Munpal Man, which I won't read out actually. Thanks very much for watching, see you soon for the next one. Don't forget to subscribe for more FPL content to come before the deadline.